Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guest. I got to tell you, people, it's Easter this Sunday. It's Easter, and I have to go Easter shopping. And it's funny because, I like to give Joanne a basket, but I've noticed how different holidays are. Like, I went to the 99-cent store the other day, and there's still a shitload of Easter candy left. But if you go to, like, the Halloween store, like, 2 weeks before, there's nothing there. St. Patty's Day, there's nothing there. So I have to go, and I just like to get little stuff. And, because it's Easter, and, it's not really that big of a holiday. Like, there's a one commercial, the Cadbury commercial, that's been on for years with different animals saying, the Easter Bunny. But what I noticed is, I wonder if kids really celebrate Easter. Because I remember when I found out that there wasn't Easter, we were coming home from a vacation, and I was older. I think I've been out like 2 years older after I had the kids. And we're coming home from a family vacation. We were going somewhere. We were somewhere. And my mom stopped and my dad pulled over. They stopped at a little store. And I saw her coming out with sports magazines. She didn't know I saw them. And I love sports magazines because they'd always give me like candy and a present. And that's when I found out there wasn't an Easter bunny. I was somewhere like in Maryland. And I saw it. And I went, there's no Easter bunny. My mom said, yes, there is. And I said, Mom, don't lie to me. So that's what happened. Anyway, we have a great show today. We have a very talented guy, a very nice guy he seems. I just met him. He seems very nice. It's Charlie Kuntz. How you doing, Charlie?
I'm doing really great. Thank you so much. I can now drop the facade of being any kind of nice guy.
Exactly.
I made it. I made it through the intro, and now I can just be my true self.
Well, it's funny because we're running a little late, and you left a message because a lot of times people don't leave a message, and you just sound so nice. And he's like, no, how did you get lost?
It's just a classic sort of idiot thing. I've been living in LA for about 11 years, so I'm like, I know everything about LA. I know the streets, whatever. So when I saw Burbank Boulevard off the 101, I immediately just went, I know exactly where that is. I don't need to look that up. And I got off on Barham Boulevard, and I was like, and then I ended up in an intersection. I was like, well, this is definitely not it. Where, it's that Verdugo and Olive intersection where 8,000 streets are all at the same time.
And it's the longest traffic light ever.
Right.
You sit there and you're going, okay. And then the one changes and you go, okay. Then the other, and you're like, can I just go? And you're just sitting there and there's a Starbucks right there. And then there's always like people crossing, and there's like right across there's a gym that has been through like 3 different ownerships. And it's like, I sit there and I hate that. I hate that thing.
I'm going to change my story. I was at that gym.
Okay.
That's what I was at that gym on that crazy intersection. But yeah.
So I got to ask you, you grew up in California.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bay Area.
Okay. So now growing up as a kid, when did you start know you wanted to get into acting? Because, it's always different how some people are littler kids, and I always also think when you grow up in a city like the Bay Area, there's such an enriched sports area. You get 49ers and the Giants. So I think as a kid you get distracted sometimes because I grew up in Philadelphia and you got the teams.
Right.
I mean, were you a sports kid as a kid, or did you like acting, or what was it?
I was kind of both. I mean, you're right about the Bay Area. I mean, I think, and it's got to be close if this isn't true, that the Bay Area has the most like per capita sports teams. A's, Giants, Niners, Raiders, Warriors, Shark. Like, we have a ton of teams. And the high school that I went to was in the East Bay called De La Salle, and they're a big football high school. We had a winning streak of 151 games in a row over like 14 years or something like that. So many NFL stars came out of that school. And I played 1 year of JV football, and that was about as far as I could go. I mean, just the competition level was so high. So I went from there, and I had done, just school plays in elementary school and things like that. And so I went from the football, and I played Little League and things like that, but I went 1 year of football in high school to theater, and I took it as a class to get like an easy credit. And then I just sort of like, it's the same thing that happens to everybody is they get a little bit of attention and decide to run with it. But my favorite thing on the earth is when you go to my high school's Wikipedia page and they have notable alumni.
You're one of them?
I'm one of them, which is really awesome. But I'm the only person who's not on a professional sports team out of like 30 guys.
See, that's so funny, and I wouldn't have known about that. But I went to Cherry Hill East, and this guy Aaron Kramer has kept up our page great.
Right.
And, like, we had a graduating class of 840, and he's found some of them, but he just wrote notable alumni. I'm not one of them. But then we're sitting there going, well,
That's lame.
They forgot. They forgot that there was Oral Hershiser, of course.
Oh, cool.
And then they forgot like 2 guys. One guy played for the 49ers named Pete Kugler, and another
Right.
guy, and I'm looking, and then I found out there's like some huge guy who recently is playing Phantom of the Opera. His name is James Barber. He's this thing, and he was 2 years younger. I was like, wow. And my buddy says you should be on that. I said, nah, I'm not. But I never knew even know they had Note along the line. Now, who are some of the football players you're mentioning with? Because that's cool.
Yeah. Let's see. The big one lately, he was a couple years ahead of me, was Maurice Jones-Drew,
Okay.
who was I think he was second to Reggie Bush in the Heisman.
Right. He went to UCLA.
Yeah, UCLA. He's actually back coaching a little bit at our high school, which is pretty cool. Let's see.
It's all right.
Now I'm put on the spot.
No.
Demetrius Williams, a bunch of Amani Toomer.
Okay. Well, I've heard of this.
Yeah.
It's a very known school.
Yeah.
So now, when you were a kid, when you watched TV, what did you really take an affinity to any certain shows? Like some people say we watched SNL, some people say this. I mean, or were you just a kid who watched everything?
It wasn't. I mean, I did the classic progression. I mean, when it was Ninja Turtles age, it was Ninja Turtles. When it was Power Rangers age, it was Power Rangers. So I didn't gravitate toward anything really in particular at first. But my relationship with television was always that I had to have a costume change.
Okay.
So when Ninja Turtles came on, and I knew everything was in the house. I had to get the pasta strainer for my head, the laundry basket for my back. I would tie pillows around my elbows so that I would be totally ready for ninja action.
You were committed.
I was totally committed.
Committing as a kid.
And then after that, if Indiana Jones came on, I had to go get my jacket and my hat and my little rubber whip.
And your mom's probably like, would you stop leaving the shit around the house?
Yeah, exactly. I had a Superman cape that I was 15 when it finally went the way of the dodo, but was still devastated kind of by it. It was a sheet. It wasn't anything cool.
No, it's like
it was in tatters.
It was a piece of felt.
Mm-hmm.
It was so you're going through high school, you start the acting. Now it comes to you have to pick a college. Now, at what point do you sit there and decide you want to go to college for acting, how do you decide your college choice?
Well, I went into college for film production.
Okay.
I really enjoyed acting in high school, but it felt very extracurricular. So, and how high schools are, where they kind of people form themselves into cliques. So, like, a certain kind of kid goes into theater, and a certain kind of kid plays lacrosse, and a certain kind of kid's a swimmer. So I think that was a big part of it. There was also a safe place for a lot of people, which was fantastic, but wasn't necessarily about the acting. So it was like, okay, this is cool. But what I really love are film and movies. And I think I'm okay at this acting thing, but that's not it. It's really, I want to make movies. So I went to Loyola Marymount over by LAX on the west side.
The Marymount, yeah. They have a high school, sister high school, I believe, in New York City.
Yeah.
That my niece goes to.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So yeah.
So I went and did that for 2 years, and then that wasn't right, and I got pulled back into the student theater there, and that was where the acting felt like these are people that came from all over, that went to this school to be theater majors, to actually stay there and do it, and it felt great.
What did you think didn't feel right about the production part? I mean, just because something you went in there, I mean, you were just not clicking, you were like not being fulfilled.
It was, I think later on, I only did 2 years, and the way that the program was set up was that you couldn't use all of the facilities available to you until, in terms of filmmaking, until you were a senior. So that's like, recorded sound, full editing, color correction, actor, all that kind of stuff. It was always, this is such a boring story. It was always more. It would put you into boxes that would allow you to think your way out of, which was really interesting. So they would give you a camera, like a little digital camcorder, and they would say, okay, your project is to do 5 minutes of unedited footage in a single story. And I go, okay, that's cool. And the next project was 2 minutes of edited footage, and it wasn't like getting to use everything and collaborate with a bunch of people. You had to do it all yourself, and it was much more teaching you how to use the machines.
Okay.
Than it was, let's get together with a writer and break a story and talk about how we can tell your vision visually and that kind of thing. It felt very singular. So when I found theater, it felt very more like a community of creative people talking about stories rather than lights.
Now, did you start getting on into the productions then once you got into that? I mean, were you cast in productions?
Yeah, the weirdest thing, because I didn't know that you could audition for plays if you weren't a theater major. So I thought that I was done with acting. I was retired at 18, and I was like, I gave the world all I could give. Um, and I was walking back to my dorm one day, and I saw this giant stack of flyers for a play called The Marriage of Bet and Boo, and it said in really big letters, auditions open to all majors. And I just didn't know that. I didn't have much connection with the department or anything. And then I walked into my apartment and I realized that I had the entire stack in my hand. And I just sort of went, well, that's a strange thing to do
I'm
for
getting a
somebody
stamp.
who doesn't want to act anymore. That's odd. So I went to the audition and it just, became a thing. And I joined the department later. And I'm a product more of mentors than anything. I think if I was left alone, if I was insulated, I probably would have quit like 100 times.
Who was your mentors in college? I mean, was it an upperclassman that found you, or just something you knew, or something you confided in, or a teacher?
I did the one student production in the student theater, like The Marriage of Bet and Boo, and then the dean of the school at the time had come to see it, and he was writing a play with a student called This Place on Third Avenue about a bar in the 30s in New York. So they were looking for all the men that they could find, and the department was mostly women at the time. So he came to see the show, and I'm this, stocky kid with a beard, and
Have you
uh,
always had the beard?
since I was
Yeah,
since I was 7 years old, I've had the beard.
I saw some pictures of the outfit.
Yeah.
But back then you were sporting a beard.
In college, I
Yeah.
was,
See,
yeah,
that's
because
cool.
I went to a Christian Brothers Catholic high school, so
Okay.
I had to be totally clean shaven. So the second you leave a place like that, the hair gets long, the beard comes in, like that's exactly what you do first thing. Um, so long story short, we did that show. He just needed bodies, basically, male bodies to do anything. And so I went and did that, and it was the dean of the school that was like, I think you really got something. I think you should. He's like, I know it's none of my business. I'm not your dad, but you should switch your focus and come and do this. And then I met the guy who's my manager today. He taught a like one-off class there and saw me, and he's like, I want to represent you, and then off to the races.
So you had a manager when you were still in college.
Just after college, because
that's-
he taught the second semester senior class.
See, that's got to be a great feeling though, because it's something
Was
you
big.
come out and all of a sudden you're going, you're running around, especially when you're young, because it's so you don't know like it's such a business, and you don't know like some guy. I mean, I always see the stories where people are like, yeah, I heard someone talking, I paid for this man. I go, you don't pay for a manager,
Right.
You don't. It's like they make money off you when you
They're
get work.
supposed to.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
that's what's funny because you get lucky that because some people, because you're young, you don't know. The last thing you're thinking of is I just got through college. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know anything about the business because they don't teach you the business
Right.
because they sit there and they teach you the craft, which they should. When you go to when I went to school in business, I had a degree in business. They didn't teach you about how to do an interview after. They just taught you here's what you got
How
to
to
know.
do the
And,
math,
and
yeah.
it doesn't even mean shit because you're like, oh, economics. I'll never use that.
Right.
So you graduate, and luckily you're in school in LA.
hmm
So you decide just to stay here?
Which was just happen. I mean, I don't know if you call it happenstance, but I did want to be in the industry. How it ended up being acting was one way. So that's what brought me to LA in general and made me more interested in going to LMU. But then I just stayed, and this guy Steve Rodriguez, my manager, was teaching a career development class.
Okay.
And so it was second semester senior year. It was the last class you take. That basically exactly what you said. They said, okay, you've got all the craft that we can give you in this amount of time. Here's what it's going to be like out there when you step out in like 2 months. And it was full of really disheartening news. But the way that I like being tested, I like seeing what's real and what's not. And after 4 years, I started to feel a little bit insulated in that experience. It's like, okay, I've got a reputation here. It's cool. I've got a lot of friends. It's great, and everybody's really supportive. But none of us really know if any of us are any good, really, because we all do things together.
Right.
And eventually you become a big team too. So you kind of know when a play comes around, that guy's gonna get that part, you're gonna get that part, she's gonna get that part, and we're all gonna flesh each other out. It's like, putting on a show. But I was excited about having that, like, okay, step into the world where nobody cares about you and see if you can sink or swim. I think actors, especially good ones or ones that want to be good, I think question whether or not they're good all the time.
Well,
And they seek out trying to find out, which I think is the interesting part.
well, I think because it's something that yeah, you have to know. It's like, especially with acting, it's not like it's stand up. If you do stand up, you know if the crowd laughs or not.
Right.
Acting, you don't really know if you, especially for TV and movie,
Right.
because it's such a different vehicle. On stage, you can tell you have to remember everything. You have to sit there in the crowd. You can get a vibe of the crowd likes it or
Right.
not, and you can get a vibe by your other cast members if you suck.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. If someone, because you said you're a team, but TV, yeah, you're right. You're going out there and just, if you're acting, you never really get that validation, because especially if you're a big star who stinks, no
Right.
director is going to sit there and go, oh, that stunk. I mean, now if you're De Niro and you screwed up a line, Scorsese's going to go, hey, Robert, do this. But when you're,
Right.
I'm sure you get a lot of kids, not kids, but people just graduate college who directing TV shows,
Hmm.
and then they sit there and they got to deal with someone. How do you sit there and say to someone, no, 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 do that again? Yeah, when you have an Oscar,
Right. No, it's true. I've never really understood why. I guess I get it. I guess there's a reputation that actors have before they even kind of walk into a room of being, regardless of who they are, of just being actors. Which I think if you ask most people, I think the assumption would be temperamental. And so I think people are a little worried about that. And I try to cut through as much smoke blowing as I can and be like, okay, we can sit here for 5 minutes and have you try to think of a way to tell me politely that I suck at acting,
right?
or we can just skip that part and talk about how we're going to make this scene better and what I can do and all that kind of stuff. So that's the stuff that I appreciate, but I think, and they don't want to. They don't, especially when it's, you have representation and agents and managers that, my team is very great, but a lot depends on you, and a lot depends on your emotional state on any given day, because you need to be focused and you need to be working and things like that. And so I think people get trepidatious around actors and telling them that things aren't going well.
Right.
But it's about but it should be about making the scene and making the project. And as a director, as a writer, you need as much from me as I need from you, so
Right.
we can make this all together. I'm only doing one piece of it.
Exactly. So now when you get out into the real world, what do you do now? Because you have a manager, but still, it's like you're still a newbie,
Yeah.
and you're probably like, I mean, you're not used to like saying they're going, hey, go down to get an audition. You have an audition in Culver City, and if I don't know where you live, but I
Right.
always crack up. It's like you sit there and go, okay, it's I've never been to an audition. It's going to be easy. And one thing I always laugh is people don't know is when they say your audition is at 1. If you find out they're auditioning from 12 to 3, you can go into 12. Like no
Yeah,
one
totally.
ever sits there and goes,
Totally.
get out. It's all signed in. And then that's when I first ever did an audition. I'm like, wait, I'm at 12:30. Wait, there's like 87 people in front of me. What time is your interview? Oh, my interview's at 1. Well, wait, what are you doing here?
Yeah. No, I just had that conversation like 2 days ago with an actor, which was really weird. That exact conversation is like, you can kind of go whenever. And like you said, they're not gonna turn you away,
Right.
because you might be the guy.
Exactly.
They're gonna see everybody they can. Yeah, when you get out, I mean, I was really lucky. It's hard to play the woe is me struggling actor card, because I was really lucky, and I got this representation. So they started sending me out on auditions, which is a lot more than actors straight out of college can even ask for.
Commercials and movies and TV, or just everything, or what?
Mostly commercials. The big thing was I didn't have my SAG card, and it was right at the tail end, I think, of the writer's strike. So the writer's strike happened and rippled through the whole industry in a way that agents were cutting actors. Like, they couldn't afford to keep everybody on because there wasn't as much work, because the writers were gone. So everybody was kind of downsizing when I was just getting into it. And I didn't have a credit. I didn't have anything. So I would go in for commercials and co-star, like one-line bits on TV. And about 6 months out of school, I got this movie called Rubber about a killer tire, like car tire, that animates itself and rolls around the desert and blows people's heads up. And the script was like 60 pages long, which is not even a movie.
No.
It's just,
That's
I
another Sonic.
held it. I was like, this is just not long enough to be a movie. Everybody understands that, right? And then it went to Cannes like 6 months after we shot it. I only did 3 days on it, and then 6 months later, I was in the south of France, which is
You were there.
yeah,
They brought you, and you played. If I'm reading your thing, you played Film Buff Charlie. That was your name.
yeah,
So they gave you, and they even spelled Charlie like you just spelled it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know.
So you're in it now. Did you have a big part?
Sort of. Part of the movie is that this tire rolls around and kills people, but it's got a Greek chorus kind of audience member type thing. There's a group of people that are about, we fudge the distance far away, looking through binoculars, watching all of the action as the tire goes around. And the whole movie, I think, the director is Quentin Dupieux. It has never given an explanation of what this movie is about. It's the weirdest movie ever. He's a French house DJ,
Okay.
and like it's all new wave. We've done like 4 movies together, and I have not understood a single one of them. But my feeling of it was that the tire would keep destroying as long as audience members were watching it. So to me, it was a metaphor about bad movies in the package of a bad movie. Like it was supposed to be a B movie.
Right.
And the whole upshot of it was that as long as we keep watching bad movies, they'll continue to exist. So I was one of those people. It was a fun part, and I just made friends with the guys and ended up in Cannes.
What was that like? I mean, you're sitting there. I mean, you're just out of school. I mean, you're thinking about it. You're just out of school.
Mm-hmm.
You have your manager. You get a part in a movie that probably when you took it, you're probably thinking, okay, this is the weirdest freaking thing ever.
The only reason I got that audition, and I've talked to people before since then, in the 6 or 7 years since then, that are like, I remember that movie, and that came across my desk, and I said I didn't want to do it because how could a movie that be 60 pages long about a tire? And I was like, right? So I only got to audition for that movie because nobody else would. Nobody else understood what it was, and I didn't care because I was auditioning for anything.
So what was it like going to con? I mean, you're. I mean, it must be amazing as a young kid.
I was 21.
So I mean, what did you do at con? Just did you walk around with your mouth open like, oh my God, there's such and such? Or...
Yeah, I had a really great friend. The reason I got to go was I was working with a Shakespeare company while I was in college called Will and Company, and it was run by a guy named Colin Cox, and he is a really great theater director. And when we found out we got into Cannes, I was working at his theater at the time, and he was like, I've traveled the world and the country doing theater, all this kind of stuff. There are people that never get this opportunity that you've gotten right off the bat. You need to go. And so he's like, I insist that you go. And I've traveled the world, so here's 180,000 frequent flyer miles
Okay.
for you to go. You just have to go. And so that was the way that I got to be there. I did it horribly wrong. I did it like a stupid 21-year-old would do it. I brought one suit, and it was too expensive to stay in Cannes with the festival going on. So I stayed in Nice, which is about an hour away. I went by myself, stayed a couple days in Paris, took the train down to Nice, which is also just crazy. I'm just in France by myself. And then when I met up with the guys in Cannes, I had my little suit on for the premiere, and I was like, the colors of the movie were black and red, so I had like a black suit and a red tie. And I was like, I'm killing it right now. And then they were like, come to this party, and I was like, okay. Anyway, they were all staying in this amazing villa in Cannes, and so I stayed there with them like on a couch for like 4 days. I was supposed to go back to Nice that night for like, clothes.
Right.
So by the time I left the festival, it was my 4th day in that same suit, just drinking everything I could find, and it was crazy. So we also got invited to the big steps. Cannes has the big blue steps that all the famous, really glitzy people get to go walk on. And because our movie did pretty well, we got invited to one of the screenings there. So I borrowed. It was a black tie event. So I borrowed somebody else's black tie. Still got the black suit, white shirt, and I got this long black tie. And I get up to the gate, and there's French security everywhere, and they say it's no. Black tie means bow tie. You can't come in. And I was like, oh, this is the worst
Right.
thing ever. And we had a producer, our line producer, who, on the movie is in charge of all the on the ground trucks, cameras, like all the logistics that we need to have to shoot the movie. Line produced better than anyone in that moment. Came up to me, he's like, I'm so sick of it. We don't have time for this. Ties my long black tie into a bow tie. So I have pictures of me there looking like an ass.
It's like the old cowboy movie.
Yeah, exactly. Huge. I would have looked better had my shirt been ruffled to like go with it, but I had this huge floppy tie, and it was fun though. I mean, those are the kinds of awesome stories that
Oh yeah,
I get to have.
Yeah.
And it was billboards everywhere, fancy rich people everywhere. That was the year that Wolf of Wall Street, no, not Wolf of Wall Street, Wall Street 2,
Okay.
Money Never Sleeps came
Yeah.
out. So there was another guy in the movie, Jack Plotnick. Our favorite thing to do is
Jack's been on my show.
yeah, Jack's so great.
Such a great guy.
He's got a Broadway show in New York right now that's crushing it.
See, what's funny was he was in New York, and then he came back, and then he got to do my show, and he was talking about doing. He had just done the one movie he had done, the independent movie I think he wrote, and then
yeah.
well, a bunch of people were in it. And then he actually was going. He had talked about doing a play in Broadway,
Yeah,
so that's cool.
he's there. It just opened and it's killing it. It's called Disaster, and
Okay.
it's a spoof
Oh,
of
Disaster! Yes, I saw it on the Today Show. I
Yeah.
didn't know that was his.
he
thing.
wrote it.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Now I got to tell my girlfriend, hey, you know that show? My guest. in it."
Absolutely.
I get some brownie points. So
So he was in Rubber with me, and our favorite thing to do would be to walk by all of the giant groups of paparazzi just kind of waiting outside the hotels to see anybody. And that was the year that Wall Street 2 came out. So we would just walk by and go, Shia, Shia, Shia. And hundreds of paparazzi would just go whoosh. And then we would run away and go.
see, that's fun. That's what's good. It's like So now I do
It's
that.
fun
before.
feeling like the bad kids,
Oh,
like
yeah.
at a fancy
It's
thing.
good. Like if I see a production around Burbank, I've seen like, oh yeah, Bradley Cooper was just here. Really? And I walk
I
away.
don't know.
So okay, so now you do that movie. Now you come back to the States,
Hmm.
and now where do you go now? Because you've been to Cannes, whatever how it's pronounced,
Right.
and. So now, where do are you getting auditions now? Are you
Nope.
Okay, so you
Nobody
just
cares.
chilling? Yeah, so what do you do? I mean, how do you start getting auditions? Just you weren't getting sent out much, or
No, I was getting sent out a lot.
But it's not-
Nobody cared. Well, the festival thing is great, but nobody's seen the movie. So the movie didn't come out for 9 or 10 months after that. So then you just go. So I had this great experience. I felt like a movie star, and then I came back and was like, oh yeah, nobody cares.
so
Forgot. Nobody knows.
so when do you start booking stuff?
The first thing I booked, I had a 3-month period where things were going pretty good, and I booked a 2-episode arc on a teen Nickelodeon show called Gigantic, which was my first TV gig.
Okay.
I guess Rubber was my first gig, but this was my first TV gig, and that was really cool. It starred Meryl Streep's daughter, Grace Gummer, and she's doing really great now. So I did that, and then I booked a guest star on Perfect Couples, which is a show that only lasted for 1 season on NBC. Also wonderful people. And then I got Community.
So you're sitting there when you're on the TV set. It must be a lot different from going from a movie about a tire
Yeah.
that turns, which wasn't a high budget, to all of a sudden you're on a Nickelodeon and an NBC. So
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a big difference between the crafty
Yeah.
that you say, and I'm sure it's just different. Now, how were you getting acclimated? Because the movie, especially if this guy was a DJ, was probably very artsy, new way of like, do that.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you're
And
getting
he's somebody who was definitely open to telling you that the acting was bad.
right. Okay, but
Yeah.
see, now you go into the TV thing, and they're guest spots. But was it easy for you to acclimate because it is a different kind of day, it's a different kind of shoot, and you only have your few lines, and you're
Yeah.
under the gun because you have 6 days or how many days, 5 days to do it.
Yeah. I think you just have to hop in and make your mistakes. The thing that I have always loved about TV and movies is that once you're there, I mean, you have the job. You got the job. At this point, it would be too expensive to fire you. So everyone's interested in you doing well, and that's an important thing to remember. So you don't beat yourself up. It's like, okay, everybody wants to help me. When you get a note, it's not a criticism; it's an adjustment. But you also just have to make your mistakes, and you just have to open yourself to keep trying, because the thing that's gonna really screw you, which I learned in the first day of all of these, beginning projects, it's really nerve-wracking because you're close to touching your dream, and that's really scary.
Right.
You know what I mean? You think that you're about to maybe get what you asked for, and you don't know what it even is. So it's important not to like freeze up, and so you just keep kind of throwing out ideas, and people kind of guide it. When I did Perfect Couples, I played a pizza guy, and I had one scene, and it was directed by a guy named Andy Ackerman, who had done like 100.
A legend.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you look at the guy; he did so many Seinfelds. The guy is a
almost
TV
100
legend.
Seinfelds. Yeah. Started on Cheers.
Oh yeah, he's a legend.
Totally. And so, but I didn't know that. I'm an idiot. So I'm there on the show playing a pizza guy, and I'm like, yeah, this is great. Like my pizza guy has a relationship with this lead actor, so he's gonna open the door, and I'm gonna riff. It's comedy. People love that shit. So we do it a couple times, and as he's closing the door, every time I say something different, because he's trying to hide the fact that he's ordered a pizza from his wife, and it's one of those like, your cholesterol's too high. Like, meh, meh, meh. So I'm throwing out like, yeah, next time my buddy Leon's gonna be here. He's got a crippled hand. Like, don't worry about it. All that stuff. So I did that about 3 times, and felt I had been allowed to do it 3 times. So now I was gonna be just going for it, which was definitely not the case. So Andy Ackerman, the legend, comes up and goes, with a script in his hand, he goes, "Going great, huh?" I was like, "Yeah, I think so. I'm feeling really good." He's like, yeah, really funny. Can we just get it? Can you say what we asked you to say? I was like, and I like withered. Yeah, yeah, totally. I was like, oh. So then, but then, I mean, you
learn.
Exactly. You gotta have that thing. I mean, and then you do learn that, especially in TV, writers,
it's their medium.
It's their medium. It's their words. They're good at it. They have scenes scored out by the words. I mean, they have sometimes cut points in the middle of a word. You know what I mean? If you're going to say something like irresponsible, it's going to be cut between the R and the E, and they know that. So, hit your mark and say a line.
So now when Community came along, was that going to be a one-off, like just a day? I mean, did you know you would come back, because you came back over seasons? When you auditioned, did you think you were just going to be a guest star per se?
I thought it was just a one joke thing, and it grew. It started growing even before I had gotten there, which was weird, and I think it kind of took everybody by a little bit of surprise. It just, circumstances happened that way. So about 2 episodes before I showed up on screen the first time, they had mentioned a character named Fat Neil, which is a character that I play, that didn't have a face. They were like, I think the line was, we got to get to the cafeteria before Fat Neil eats all the lima beans or something.
So it was like Norm's wife on Cheers. Like,
yeah, exactly. It was the first time it had been mentioned. It wasn't a real person. And then I came in 2 episodes later to do a scene with John Oliver, was just part of the classroom, and he goes, where did we leave off? Fat Neil? And I said, the Bronze Age? And he goes, and also, Neil's okay. You don't have to call me Fat Neil. And then that was it. And then it was just a one joke. I didn't even know the other episode had happened because it hadn't aired. I didn't know that they had mentioned it before. And then it was in between that one and the Dungeons and Dragons one, which is the big episode that kind of solidified it and launched it. Was I was shooting the day where I had the one line while they were writing Dungeons and Dragons. And they have on the lot, they have a closed video feed so that the writers in the writer's room can keep an eye on what's going on the stage. So if, something's going horribly wrong, you can go down there. So they had it like on a TV like that, and they were writing this character that's sad and overweight and depressed and plays Dungeons and Dragons, and I just happened to be playing on their television at the moment that they were writing it, and they were like, "That looks like the guy," and I mean, they had cast me, but it was just a one-off thing. So it was like, that looks like that could be an interesting thing. So they called me back to do D&D, and I didn't find out until the rap party. D&D went really, really well for me, and I didn't find out in the rap party. Dan Harmon came up to me and was like, the creator of the show, and he was like, "Thank God you worked out," because they didn't know I had one line. They cast me off the look, and then gave me a Dungeons and Dragons episode that was pretty much wall to wall about my character. It was hardly even about the main characters at the time. So it's like, we really took a shot on that, and we're really glad that worked.
So now once that airs, people watch a show. Do people start recognizing you? Because it's the one thing I always say. There's so many shows that have like certain crowds per se.
Mm-hmm.
Like people who watch Community they're hip. They
Right.
know what they're watching. It's like there's an old Marin episode where he goes in with Dave Foley to this store because some guys was going after Marin and saying you suck. And
Right.
then they all love Dave. Oh, Kids in the Hall.
Yeah, right.
So it's that noticeable. So now, I mean, were you starting to get recognized all of a sudden because you recurred? I mean, you were on 14 or 15, 16 episodes.
16 episodes, yeah.
Which is just start off as a one-on, and then
Right.
they just call you back. And I mean, how would they call you though? Would you just sit there and go, okay, you're gonna be on, or what, would your agent call you, or did you have a plan of when you would be on and when you wouldn't?
No. They did it as they were writing. They called the show built a really great group of characters that were not part of the main
Right.
study group, for the study group to kind of interact with and have rivalries with. And it was a lot of, actually, because the study group themselves, like Joel McHale and Danny Pudi and Chevy and all them, had a Seinfeld-esque feeling of like, these actually aren't great people.
Right.
They're not that nice, and they're very entitled and all that kind of stuff. So the surrounding characters were all very sweet, and the show used to call them the Muppets. So I was part of the, we got Jeff and Annie and Pierce and then all the Muppets. So that was when we would all know to come back and like fill out a scene and do that kind of stuff. So they would just use it to populate the world every now and then.
So now what would happen with people when they start recognizing you? That must be odd, and just also because they know you as Fat Neil.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it must be like people must go with, hey, Fat Neil. You know how people get.
Well, it was cool. It's all really happened for me in a way that has been really nice. I didn't love the idea of playing a character named Fat Neil.
Oh, no one would.
You know what I mean? It wasn't my favorite thing. But, at that point you got to kind of catch as catch can, and so that was one thing that was really great, even doing the one-off and then getting Dungeons and Dragons and seeing how they address that, which the whole episode was about this kid who's really depressed, and the group comes to play Dungeons and Dragons with him and make him feel good about himself. And there's a moment where you realize that Joel McHale's character was the one that made up the name Fat Neil, and Fat Neil gets to say, "Why would you say that to me?" That's
right.
And so that was worth the whole thing. I didn't know that when I got the part on the one-off, but that was just a gift from writers letting that be a thing. And then also my first line being just like, Neil's fine. You don't need to call me that. So when people started to recognize me, they would go, "Oh my God, you're Fat Neil." Oh, I mean, regular Neil.
Right. So it made an impact, which is great. I mean, people sat there, and that's all you can ask for.
Absolutely. And they, I've never seen myself on TV. I've never seen somebody like that on TV before. I felt like I was watching you. I love Dungeons and Dragons. And so I was starting to have all these actor friends, and I was really feeling myself. I was trying to live the life a little bit, and I went to a party at the Roosevelt Hotel once with somebody who was we had a mutual friend, and they were much more famous than me, and whatever, but nobody cared at all. And I was like, "No, I'm on TV too." And then the next day, I went to see Dan Harmon's show at Meltdown Comics on Sunset, and I was like a king.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So you have that thing where it's like you walk into a comic book store in LA, and they're like, "Oh my God, you are Neil from Community, and it's awesome. It's cool. And when you know that, it was such a great way to have it like back-to-back days.
Oh
We
yeah.
go like, okay,
Not everyone's gonna love me here, but man, I'm a god here. And
yeah, and
listen,
I don't need to be going to,
wanna go
hotel
to
parties
Hollywood.
or whatever. I'm
Screw
over it.
screw
Yeah,
that.
these are the people that love what you do, and those are the people you should be with, I think.
So now you're run on Community. You're doing that now. Now, how all of a sudden now, how do you transition into going from Pat Neil to
Mhm.
a drama? Because I mean, CSI Cyber is a
Yeah.
drama.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a serious show.
Yeah, it's weird. I always say that because Neil was so depressed on Community, I went from being the least funny character on one of the funniest shows on TV to like the funny character on one of the biggest dramas on TV, which is really weird.
Now, how did that audition become too? And also, as an actor, if you knew it was for CSI,
Mhm.
you know this much. You know, if you're auditioning for a CSI or an NCIS on CBS,
Right,
the show is going to get picked up. If you're bringing in a cast of Patricia Arquette
right.
and Ted Danson, you know what?
It's gonna go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, and he came from the other CSI. He left and came onto
Yep.
this. So now, how did that whole audition come in? What was your process? Was it a long process, or did they know you from Community, or how did they even get you in the door to play? It's more of a serious part.
I think it's a credit to the representation and things like that if they can get you in. I don't really know the ins and outs of that kind of thing where I just sort of show up. But the other thing too is that once you're around for long enough, you just audition and audition and audition and audition, and most of the times you just get the material the night before, so you really just have to do the best you can with it. There's almost not a lot you can do with it, so you try to give some broad strokes. So anyway, I had an audition. It was in the middle of summer. I hadn't auditioned in like 3 months because summer's super dead all the time. And this CSI audition came up the night before. It was like 10 pages, one of which was a really great scene. Like the last scene was really great where Crummets, whose name was Grummets at the time, talks to Patricia's character and says like, I'm lonely and I only feel connected to a computer, and I work 18 hours a day because who would have me out in the real world? And so that was really great character stuff. And I felt like I knew that guy. I felt like I knew that feeling. I don't live in that feeling, but I have had it and I
Right.
knew it. But then the other three were like 6 pages of the tech stuff that we have to do. I was like, shit, I just can't learn it. I just don't think I can. So I went into the audition. I was like, oh, let's just do it. Because that's how it is. I mean, you audition for so many things and you lose so many parts that eventually you stop going, oh, the CSI franchise, this is going to change my life. You just got to give the audition your all, and if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So I didn't really think about it. So I get there, and the casting director, Carol Kritzer, was really sweet and more forthcoming than most casting directors, which was really helpful. It was like half good and half awful, because the scene where I get to be emotional, I felt really connected to. The other three were like, ugh. So, but she was really great. She's like, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to call you back because this last scene was really good and I really appreciated it. And I think you might be right for this. I think you're what they're looking for, but you have to go home and learn those other 3 scenes. Like you have to make tech talk your thing, because that's the only way you're going to get this part. And then it just kind of went on from there.
Well, then you're focused because you're going, okay.
Now I know there's a shot. Yeah.
Exactly. They're going, okay, they could have just said, screw you.
Right.
Because but they're saying, hey, you know what? It's like a guy who plays baseball, who's a crappy fielder but hits well.
Right.
Then they go, okay, well, you go learn the field, and you're going to start.
Right.
So you sat there. At least you know what you had to work on. At least you don't have to sit there and they say, okay, we're calling you back, and you're going to do it all again.
Totally.
So now did you go home and just rehearse vigorously?
Just paced up and down my driveway and just said it and said it and said it and said it. What I do, not that anybody cares about my process, but
They do.
It's funny how many interviews I listen to with actors because I'm just interested, and when they get to the process part, I go, nobody cares.
but they
Tell
do.
tell me the explosion story.
This is Cooper talk.
Oh,
They
okay,
care.
good,
They
good.
care.
It's not even that interesting. What I do is I have to learn the words first. So it's very like bop 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 bop. I can finally say them all in order, and then now I have them and I can work them now. Now I can find out what they mean. Now I can start really breaking them up into moments and things like that. But I have to just first. So that's what I did. I just memorized them like they were words in the dictionary, and then went back and tried to figure it out.
So then you get in, and then you nail it.
Yes and no. I nailed it enough to keep coming back, which is about all you can ask for. To keep coming back and getting the shot, I did well enough for that. My big hurdle, I had two big hurdles. The first one was they were interested in somebody else, somebody more famous, which is always going to happen. So, not always. Maybe I'll be that guy. But I was good enough to keep being in the conversation, but they really wanted this more famous guy. And our showrunner Pam Vise just really fought for me, which I am obviously incredibly appreciative of. My other big problem was there were a handful of people within CBS that were absolutely convinced that I had a speech impediment.
Okay.
And two or three of my auditions, the final one being one that I did on video, because I had already gone to New York. I was supposed to find out and whatever. But at least two or three of the auditions were to find out if I actually had a speech impediment.
Oh,
and my manager was calling me. He's like, "They think you talk weird, dude." I was like, "Really?"
You talk fine.
I know. I was like, and it happened a couple times. I was like, okay, well, let me go back in and do it again. So I did it again, and they were like, yeah, they think you talk weird. They were sending my videos to New York and to LA and to all the different places that CBS has offices, and I was kind of freaking out about it. I wasn't freaking out. I wasn't nervous. I felt like I was going insane because I guess in a world where somebody has a speech impediment, they don't really know. And so I asked my manager, I was like, you have to be honest with me. We've been friends for 6 years. Do I talk weird? Is this just something that everyone's been too polite to say? He's like, I can't tell. I was like, I feel like I'm going crazy. No, speech impediment. What? So anyway, what it was, we finally figured it out. And I was in New York. I had already left because I had this trip planned. And I was standing on the street, and they're like, they just can't get over it. And it happens the most in this scene. It's like this one bit. And I go, it just clicked. Exactly what that is. At the very beginning of the scene, it says in the stage directions, Grummets stands in a Walmart electronics section eating a hot dog. I was miming eating a hot dog.
Okay.
And I just could not figure it out for 2 weeks. They're like, they really like you. They just think that America won't be able to understand you. And it just clicked. I was like, all right, let me do one more tape. And I just won't do my stupid hot dog bit that I've done from the very beginning. Because the thing with auditions, too, is that, like, if it's working, it's working. Just,
right.
Nobody wants you to change up your
Exactly.
approach halfway through your audition process. So I stuck with that hot dog, thought it was funny. I was like, yeah, well, everything we're gonna need. And somebody's like, that dude talks weird.
So you get through that. And
so I finally got the part. I sent a video that was nice and clean.
And you get cast. Now, how stoked are you?
I totally cried. I was in New York. Once I sent that clean tape, they went, okay, he talks like a normal human. And I got the part. And I found out at like 12 o'clock I found out about midnight in New York. And I had maybe already settled into a cocktail or two, so I was really ready to feel. And I just, I cried. I was so, because we knew it was being picked up for at least 13 episodes.
Right.
We knew it was going to go. It wasn't like, okay, I got a pilot, now I got to get to work and really see if it's going to even be what I think it is. It was like, you are doing 13 episodes as a regular on a television show on CSI. By the way, just a small footnote to that last story. Still, somebody to this day convinced that I talk weird. I had a speech therapist. They paid for a speech therapist to come to set for 3 weeks.
What idiots.
I had four meetings in my dressing room in between takes where I'm like,
That's so funny.
It's so weird.
So now, what's it like? You're on the series, but I mean, you're working with, I mean, honestly, sitcom-wise, one of the biggest stars ever.
Well, Ted didn't join until season 2.
Okay, so but you're working still with Patricia Arquette.
Yeah, and Peter McNichol.
Yeah,
who Ally McBeal
who was
and Ghostbusters.
legendary. Yeah. So I mean, what's it like when all of a sudden, you've been in Community, and Community was a great show, and then Ken Jeong hadn't really become Ken Jeong
Right.
yet, but now
Joel was still becoming Joel.
Yeah, now
Allison.
you're coming into, she's a damn Arquette. I mean, it's like true,
Right.
true romance. It's like, I mean, what is that like when you go on the set? Were you intimidated, or were you just ready to hit the big leagues?
This sounds like a made up story, but I took a phone call. I stepped out and took a phone call in the middle of seeing Boyhood in the movie theater about the show.
Oh wow.
And whether or not it was gonna, if what stage of auditioning I was in or whatever. But I was watching that movie, and yeah, she won the Oscar right after we finished shooting season 1. But through the course of season 1, she won everything else, every other award. So it was intimidating, for sure. I had had some good experiences though. I did a show called Royal Pains with Henry Winkler.
Yeah, which I heard he's amazing.
He's just the nicest guy. So yeah, I was completely nervous, but it went away really, really quickly. And not to mention, nothing to shake a stick at James Van Der Beek and Bow Wow.
You forget, Yeah, you forget. Yeah, Van Der Beek. I mean, it's like he's Van Der Beek. I mean, that's
totally.
Like,
I mean, they're all kind of legends.
Yeah, and so
and then me,
Yeah.
for some reason.
So now the show becomes popular. Now, do you have a lot of computer people reaching out to you that you may? I mean,
I know
it's
nothing.
a character. So I mean, how do you? I have a friend who does his name's John Matta. He does this napkin thing, and it's a huge hit now. He does a napkin every day.
A napkin every day?
He draws a napkin.
Oh.
Thing. And he has all these artists hitting him up, and he just did it because his wife was sick, and he just would do something to pass time.
Right.
So how do you respond to the people who, because they probably sit there and that's people probably think, or if they see you out, you probably can't go into a Best Buy without going, hey, should I get the Acer or this? So how do you react? Do you just tell them, hey, I don't know this? Do you Google it to give them an answer? If people send you,
I try to be as honest as possible. I mean, you can kind of see them deflate a little bit, like they really want you to know.
Right.
And I just don't. I mean, I've learned conceptual things from the show. I can't do anything with the computer, like the actual physical. Crumitz's thing is that he's all hardware. He's the hardware guy, so he's the guy who always breaks open the computer and takes out the components and washes the blood off it. And I don't know how to do any of that, but we learned things like changing your passwords and setting up firewalls and encryption, and like this encryption debate is really interesting that's happening now.
Right.
Especially just because of the show that we work on. And we play FBI characters, FBI agents.
So yeah, it's pretty hands-on.
Yeah, there are a lot of people on Twitter who are saying that they should just call the CSI Cyber team in, because apparently we can do anything, and we do. So vagaries, but nothing crazy.
Now, do you know if you're picked up for next season, or do you know? Or
we don't know yet.
See,
May 18th is when CBS is gonna lay out their whole endeavor. So.
What's that like as an actor? Because I always think for one, you have to be happy that you got the part and you've worked with these great people.
Yeah.
But two, it's like you gotta say, hey man, I really want to come back. That's some good. That's my change, baby. That's my coin. I want us to get to a few like 2 more seasons so we
I
can
don't have
be
the
on
house yet.
we can be on TBS or whatever every single day because
right.
Find them. I mean, so what's it like for you? Just can you not audition for stuff till you know, or what happens?
I'm in a little bit of a holding pattern for sure. I'm trying to look at it as a well-earned vacation and not you can't go do anything. They've always been really good though. It's not critical if I was going to go do a guest star or something, then then I don't think they'd hold me back. But we don't know about the fate of the show, so I can't really hop on to another show as a regular because we just don't. I'm not really available, you know. So yeah, it's weird. I mean, for me, and I've just been thinking about this a lot in the last week or so for sure because it's getting. I made my way through Redbox and I've
Right.
made my way through the books that I was reading and I'm all caught up on all the kind of time sucking things that I wanted to do. So it's yeah, it's just sort of a weird spot to be in. And not the least of which the money is amazing and you can't really lie about that. You get to be on TV and it's great. I think with our group we bonded so well together that a large part of it, at least for me, is just wanting to come back and work more. It's what there are people who get into this business in the creative side that want to make their millions. But I think most of us get into it because they want to act. And so I miss going to work every day. You know what I mean? Like at a certain point it becomes about the friends that I've made and the work that we've done, and a lot of guys on the crew especially who've done far more incredible things than I have or probably at this point will ever get to do. Just by the nature of their work, we're like, this is a great group. Like I could settle in here for a long time. Like this is a fun place to go to work. So I miss it, I mean, I was thinking about in the last few days as I was thinking about this interview was he's going to ask me what I'm doing and I'm going to say, being bummed I'm not at work.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that is, but it's also, you have things to look forward. And also now if something happens that it doesn't get picked up, well, at least you have the juice of being on two different shows, which is for you is great because you can go back into comedy or you can go into drama.
Yeah.
And so that,
and
that's the thing. It's like not like you're just pigeonholed like, oh, you can only be Fat Neil, regular Neil, or you can go to do either one.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
But that's good. But just so you just chill out. You watch some Netflix. You watch
exactly.
You
catch up on House of Cards.
Yeah, if you have Amazon, you watch The Mad Dogs, which is a great show.
Is it really? I haven't seen that.
Great cast. It has it's from co-produced by Sean Ryan, who created The Shield.
Oh, cool.
It's got a great cast, and there's stuff you can do.
Yeah, there's plenty out there.
And you can go to a comic, you can go to Meltdown and be a god. I mean, shit, you can sit there and get free
I'm just going to go shake hands for a while and take some pictures.
And now, watch. I bet you're going to start getting asked to come to conventions.
Maybe.
They'll do that.
I haven't yet, but
you will.
But I would love that. That would be fun. I have a really good friend on The Walking Dead.
Let's see.
And he is all over the place with the conventions. It's really cool.
It's cool.
Yeah. I need to get into like a horror thing.
Yeah, but Community will start getting conventions. I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. So we've got to wrap up in just a few. Now,
No.
do you tweet?
I do tweet.
Let's give you
absolutely. It's at Charlie_Kuntz, and my name is CHARLEY _KOONTZ, and it's the same for my Instagram.
And do you tweet a lot?
I try to tweet a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Instagram a lot?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
And people, so yeah, please follow him also. Follow me on Instagram. It's Cooper Talk 1 because there's a Cooper Talk. I don't know why. Go to my Twitter. It's Cooper Talk. I tweet a lot. I tweet a lot of jokes. I just try to have fun. You can go to my website, coopertalk.net. I have, I just posted episode 490 today.
Oh, my
so
God.
You can go up there and check it out. Or you can send me an email. Coopertalk.net. I'm always looking for new sponsors, so send me an email. We'll talk about that because, I can use the extra cash. It's always good. And iTunes and Stitcher, one word. It's just one word, Cooper Talk. You can do that. And as I say, send me an email. Tell me who you want to hear. And go to my other website, stopthesalt.com. You remember when I had that health problem a few years ago and I was in the hospital for 5 days in the cardiac unit. And I had to change my eating habits. So I wrote a cookbook. It's called Stop the Salt. It's 120 easy recipes. There's no pictures. So you're not going to get intimidated. Because you look at pictures and you go, oh, my God, I can't cook that. No pictures, 120 recipes, sandwiches, stuff like that. The ingredients are basic. It's easy. It's like almost like one plate cooking. And basically you go in, there's no cumin. If you don't have cumin, don't worry. You don't need cumin. So go in there and you can go buy it at Barnes & Noble or Amazon.com. If you buy it at stopthesalt.com, I make more money. and I will sign it for you. So do that. Follow Charlie_Kuntz. Follow me at Cooper Talk. Keep listening. Next week's all great show. Remember, I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only as hip as my guest. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins, and I will talk to you guys next week.
The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Alright folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. Again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you. So make sure that you Go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
Wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome to
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.